Come pay the bill. Those were my wife's words when she called me to a party I wasn't invited to. To them, I was just an ATM in a uniform, but they forgot what a soldier is trained to do when betrayed and backed into a corner. This isn't a story about a broken heart. It's about a calculated campaign of retaliation. Have you ever wondered what a man stripped of everything will do to get his honor back? I'm Jake Anderson, an officer in the United States Army. In the military, everything has order, rank, command, role. But in 5 years of marriage to Jessica, my role in the Vance family was something else entirely. I was the soldier husband, the son-in-law to Eleanor Vance, and an ill-fitting ornament in their wealthy family portrait. She never hid her contempt for some grunt her precious daughter had deigned to marry. That night, I was sitting in our empty kitchen, cracking open a cold beer, a small reward after 3 days of field training. Dinner was leftover pizza from the fridge. No one cared what I ate, and no one was home to notice a soldier who just returned from a mission. Then the phone rang. It was Jessica. "Jake, I need you at the Royal Crest." Immediately, her voice came through, without a single word of greeting. I glanced at the clock. Nearly 10 at night. What's going on? It's Mom's birthday. The party went a little over budget. Come pay for it. I was silent. On her end, I could hear soft music and the clinking of glasses. They were there, the whole family, at a birthday party I didn't even know existed. "Jessica," I said, my voice surprisingly steady. "Was I invited?" A pause. Then I heard her sigh, an impatient sound I knew all too well. "Don't start, Jake. Just get over here and handle the bill. $3,874.50. Click. She hung up. No invitation. Just an invoice. I stood up and stripped off my dust-covered training fatigues. I took a quick shower and put on my blue dress uniform, the one I only wore for the most formal occasions. Every button was fastened, every crease sharp. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I didn't see a slighted husband. I saw an officer of the United States Army. The Royal Crest was awash in crystal light and fake laughter. I didn't look for their table. I walked straight to the front desk, where the receptionist looked at me with surprise. "I'm here to settle the bill for the Vance party," I said clearly. As my credit card was being processed, I saw Jessica and her mother approaching. The smile on Jessica's face froze when she saw me in full uniform. Eleanor eyed me, her expression guarded. "I'll need an itemized receipt, please." With the name of the party's host on it, I told the receptionist, ignoring them both. "Jake, what the hell are you doing?" Jessica hissed under her breath. I took the receipt, folded it precisely, and tucked it into my breast pocket. I turned to my wife and, for the first time in a long time, looked her directly in the eye. "I'm doing what you asked. I'm paying the bill." I gave them a curt, formal nod and turned to leave, leaving a cloud of confusion and a flicker of anxiety on their faces. I got home first. I didn't turn on the lights. When Jessica walked in, the only things she saw were my silhouette in the armchair and the stark white receipt on the coffee table. "What are you doing sitting in the dark?" she asked, her voice laced with annoyance. "I'm waiting for an answer." She flipped on a lamp, squinting. "An answer to what?" I said nothing, just tilted my chin toward the receipt. "Oh, for God's sake. This again?" She rolled her eyes. "You're overreacting. It was just a party." I stood up and walked slowly toward her. 5 years, Jessica. 5 years I've tried to be a part of your world." I stopped in front of her. "What exactly is my role in this family?" She crossed her arms, her look defiant. "You should be grateful you married me, Jake, instead of worrying about such trivial things." That sentence, not the party or the bill, was the final confirmation. It extinguished the last ember of hope I had left. The anger inside me didn't burn. It turned to ice, cold, sharp, and clear. I looked at the woman before me, the woman I once loved, and saw a complete stranger. "All right," I said softly. "I understand." I turned and walked upstairs, leaving her standing there. In my mind, a new mission had just been assigned. The endurance phase was over. The operational phase had begun. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in my study, not to grieve or regret, but to plan. In the military, before every campaign, we assess the situation, define the objective, and map out our course of action. My marriage had now become a battlefield, and I would not go into it unprepared. The next morning, I was up before dawn, a habit ingrained in me. Jessica was still asleep, her face peaceful, as if last night's conversation had never happened. That indifference only strengthened my resolve. I made a cup of black coffee, went out onto the back porch, and dialed my father's number. He was a retired colonel, a man who taught me that emotions were to be controlled, not to be controlled by. He answered on the second ring. "Jake." "Dad," I said, my voice a bit hoarse. "I think it's really over." The line was quiet, not an awkward silence, but the silence of a man who was listening, giving me the space I needed. "I tried to talk last night," I continued, staring out at the misty yard, "and I got my answer. There's nothing left to salvage. I'm tired, Dad." My father let out a long, slow breath. "I know, son. I've seen it for a long time." Hearing that, an invisible weight lifted off my shoulders. He knew. He'd always seen it. "Then it's time to stop fighting a battle you know you can't win," he said, his voice deep and steady, "and start planning a safe withdrawal. You understand what I'm saying?" "I understand," I replied, feeling the cold resolve return. "That's why I'm calling. This isn't going to be clean. It's going to involve finances." "I figured as much. You call Peterson. He's the best lawyer there is, and he'll take care of you. Tell him I sent you." He paused, then added, "And Jake, head up. This isn't a failure. It's a redeployment." "Yes, sir." The call ended. This time, it brought not just a plan, but understanding. I took the receipt from the Royal Crest out of my pocket. It was no longer a symbol of humiliation. It was now the first piece of evidence. I carefully placed it in a file folder, labeling the tab Exhibit A. Moments later, I called Peterson's law firm. "Peterson Law Offices." "This is Captain Jake Anderson," I said. "My father is Colonel Anderson. He told me to call." Within the hour, I had an appointment for that afternoon. The endurance phase was over. The intelligence gathering and counteroffensive phase had officially begun. Peterson's office was on the top floor of a glass building overlooking the city. I didn't care about the view. I sat across from him, a man with a firm handshake and an unshakable gaze. "In a divorce, Jake," Peterson said after I finished my briefing, "the truth doesn't matter as much as the evidence. Your feelings are one thing, but what you can prove in court is another. This receipt is a good start, but we need more." He was right. I had my motive. Now it was time to gather intel. That evening, I got a call from Mark, my old squad mate. His voice was hesitant. "Hey, Jake. Listen, there's something I don't know if I should say." "Just say it, Mark," I replied. "I've seen Jessica a few times, at Vento Restaurant, with some guy. They looked real close. I heard a waiter call him Ryan." For a moment, my chest tightened, but the feeling passed quickly, replaced by a cold clarity. This wasn't news. It was a puzzle piece. "I understand," I said, my voice flat, without a trace of emotion. "Thanks for the intel, Mark." "You good?" "I'm good. I'm handling it." I hung up. Ryan. A name for a ghost. I wrote it down in a notebook. Suspect. Ryan. Location. Vento. Next. Finances. Divorce is always about the money. I opened my laptop and logged into our joint savings account, one I rarely checked. I'd always trusted Jessica to manage it. A critical, tactical error. I scrolled through the transaction history, and then I saw it. A recurring wire transfer. The 15th of every month, for the past 2 years. Eleanor Vance. $500. A total of $12,000 had been funneled directly from my account to my mother-in-law. No discussion, no approval. I took a screenshot and saved it to an encrypted file. Exhibit B. But the strongest evidence came unexpectedly. The next day, Eleanor herself came to the house, likely to gauge my reaction to the party. She walked in as if she owned the place, wearing her usual smug expression. "Jake, I hear from Jessica you were a bit unhappy about the party," she began. "I was just surprised, ma'am," I replied, gesturing for her to sit. I had a feeling before she arrived. I'd placed my phone on the bookshelf, recording mode already active. The microphone was aimed directly at the living room. "What's to be surprised about? Family takes care of family," she said, her tone patronizing. "Just like how Jessica takes care of me each month. My own son isn't even that thoughtful." "Yes, the $500 a month." "I saw that," I said, keeping my voice neutral. She scoffed. "Just a little pocket money for her mother. You're a soldier, flush with cash. What's a few dollars? I remained silent, letting her talk. Arrogance is always the enemy of caution. I decided to push a little further. I'm not worried. I'm just concerned, I said, feigning care. I'm also concerned about the $20,000 bonus from my last deployment. Jessica said she gave it to you to invest. I hope everything is all right. It was a probe, based on a vague suspicion I had, and it hit its mark. Eleanor waved her hand dismissively. Oh, that. The market was just bad. I tried to make you two a nice profit, but we got a bad broker. Money lost can be made again. What's important is the business lesson. Jessica is still so naive, she needs my guidance. She said it so casually, as if discussing the price of groceries. She had just admitted to losing a sum of money I'd earned with my own sweat and blood, and she framed it as a lesson. Yes, an expansive lesson, I said. After she left, feeling triumphant for having educated me, I walked to the bookshelf. I picked up my phone and stopped the recording. Exhibit C, secured, mission successful. I needed something bigger. An undeniable trap, a performance they would willingly step into and tear off their own masks. I ran the idea by my father. He was silent at first, but then I heard a low chuckle. You're thinking like a soldier, he said. Not just withdrawing, but launching a counteroffensive. Good. What's your bait? In war, the best bait is what your enemy desires most. For Jessica and her mother, it wasn't love or loyalty. It was money. Lots of it. The plan was laid out. Phase 1. Create the opportunity. The following week, I accidentally left my phone on the dining table while Jessica was home. I had arranged for Mark to call at a specific time. When the phone rang, Jessica glanced at the screen. The caller ID read, Colonel Williams, Pentagon. She didn't answer, but I knew the seed of curiosity had been planted. That evening, I came home with a pensive look on my face, a mix of excitement and hesitation. I opened a good bottle of wine and poured a glass for Jessica. Is something wrong? She asked, her voice falsely concerned. I received an offer, I said, staring into the distance. A private security firm. They want me as a senior consultant for a project in the Middle East. If I agree to an early honorable discharge... I paused, shaking my head. Never mind, it's too complicated. Jessica put her wineglass down. Her eyes lit up. How is it complicated? What about the money? Just as I'd predicted. The numbers are significant, I said, lowering my voice. A 7-figure contract. But there's a catch. They need someone with a stable profile. A happy family. A strong home front to ensure a long-term commitment. I looked her straight in the eye. They'll want to meet my wife. The change in Jessica's expression was instantaneous. The indifference vanished, replaced by sharp calculation. She took my hand, her voice sweet. Jake, why would you hesitate? This is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. Of course I'll help you. We're a family after all. The fish had taken the bait. Phase 2. The performance. The next few weeks were a flawless act. Jessica became the model wife. She cooked gourmet meals, asked about my day, and initiated weekend date nights. Eleanor also visited frequently, bearing expensive gifts and constantly praising me as a man of great vision. They were perfectly constructing the image of a happy family, and I played the part of a husband who was slowly being won over, basking in their sudden affection. Phase 3. Securing the final evidence. I knew they couldn't contain their greed for long. Greed always comes with carelessness. I bought a small, high-grade audio recorder and placed it under the coffee table in the living room, where they often sat and chatted. And then, one evening, when I told them I had to go meet the partners to finalize some terms, I got what I needed. I sat in my car, parked a block away, listening live through a Bluetooth earpiece. He bought it. Jessica's voice was triumphant. He thinks he's about to become a millionaire, and I'm the best wife in the world. Eleanor's shrill laugh came through. Good girl. Keep him happy. Once that money is in the joint account, all you have to do is start a huge fight. The courts always side with the wronged woman. You'll get at least half of it, if not more. I know, Jessica replied. And then I can finally be with Ryan, properly. He's the one who deserves me. Exactly. That soldier is just a stepping stone. You're almost at the top. Don't let him slip. I turned off the device. The entire conversation had been recorded in perfect clarity. I started the car and drove off. Not home, but to Peterson's office. Exhibit D. The kill shot. The operation was ready. All that was left was to set the date for the final assault. I had enough to destroy them in a civil court, but I had a feeling the story didn't end there. The greed of Jessica and Eleanor seemed boundless, and a soldier's instinct told me something else was lurking beneath the surface. My instinct was right. 2 days later, I was summoned to the office of Captain Miller, my direct commanding officer. This was unusual. Miller was a no-nonsense man, and he only called me in for serious matters. "Sit down, Jake," he said, his voice grim. His office was immaculate, not a single paper out of place. He slid a file across his desk toward me. "I want you to see this." Off the record, before it becomes official, I opened the file. Inside were complaints. Not one, but 3, all from the wives of soldiers in my unit. They were accusing a woman named Jessica Anderson of fraud. My blood ran cold. According to the file, Jessica had used my reputation as an officer to approach other military families. She boasted about her family's connections and promised she could get them into high-end housing developments with a special military discount. Many had trusted her and given her substantial down payments. Of course, there were no discounts. The money had simply vanished. "The Army's Criminal Investigation Division is involved now," Miller said, his voice filled with disappointment. "This isn't just fraud. It's a serious blow to the honor of the uniform and to your reputation. I'm showing you this so you know what you're up against. This is no longer a family matter, Jake. This is criminal." I closed the file, my hands clenched into fists. The anger in me was no longer cold. It was a searing fire. Jessica hadn't just betrayed me. She had used the very uniform I wore, the trust of my brothers and sisters in arms, to make money. This was a line that could not be forgiven. "Thank you, Captain," I said, my voice firm. "I'll handle this." I left Miller's office with a copy of the file in my hand. This wasn't a divorce anymore. This was a purge. That night I sat with Peterson and my father in the law office. The streetlights cast long shadows across the dark wood of the conference table. I laid out everything I had. First, the receipt from the birthday party, the evidence that started it all. Next, the bank statements, cold numbers that exposed 2 years of theft. Then the phone with the recording of Eleanor, casually admitting to losing my deployment bonus. The smaller recorder held their conversation about the plan to seize my assets, every triumphant laugh captured. And finally, the heaviest of all, the copy of the Army CID file, with the sworn statements and evidence of Jessica's fraud. Peterson examined each item, his face growing more serious with each page. My father was silent, but I could see the fury hardening in his eyes as he read the testimony from the military families. "With this," Peterson finally said, tapping a finger on the fraud file, "we don't just win, we annihilate them. Jessica will go to prison. Eleanor, as an accomplice, won't escape either." "That's exactly what I want," I said. "But I don't want it to happen quietly behind courtroom doors. I want them to face the consequences in front of everyone, in front of the world they're so proud of." My father looked at me. "What's your plan?" "They started this story with a party," I said, looking him straight in the eye. "We're going to end it with one." Peterson raised an eyebrow. "What do you mean?" "I'm going to tell Jessica the partners have agreed to the contract, and to celebrate we're throwing a massive party. We'll invite all their friends, their business partners, everyone who matters in the Vance family's world. A party to announce our $1 million future." My father smiled. A real smile this time. A public tribunal. "Exactly," I replied. "Venue, the Royal Crest, the very place they humiliated me, and there, in front of everyone, I will present all the evidence." Peterson nodded, a look of admiration in his eyes. "A public trial where you're the judge. Ruthless, but effective. I like it." The final plan was locked in. Everything was in place. The prey had walked right into the kill zone. Now, all that was left was to set the date for the party that would seal their fate. The Royal Crest was as opulent as ever. Crystal chandeliers, smooth jazz, and guests in expensive evening wear. The only difference was that tonight I wasn't on the sidelines. I was the center of the production. "Don't you think the uniform is a bit formal?" Jessica whispered beside me, her arm linked affectionately through mine. She wore a sparkling red dress. her face radiant with the belief that she was about to step into a life of millions. "It's appropriate for the occasion," I answered curtly. Eleanor glided ahead of us, greeting guests with a triumphant smile. She was on top of the world, proudly showing off her brilliant son-in-law. They had no idea they were walking onto a stage I had built for them. When the party was at its peak, I stepped up to the podium. All eyes turned to me. I saw Jessica and her mother beaming with pride. "Welcome, everyone," I began, my voice carrying through the ballroom via the microphone. "Thank you for joining our family tonight. This is a special night, a night to celebrate the future. But before we talk about the future, I'd like to take a brief look at the past." I signaled a man I had positioned in the control booth. The large screen behind me, which had been displaying the Vance family crest, went black. "My first gift," I said, "is dedicated to the friends and partners who have always trusted the Vance family." The screen lit up, showing a photo of Jessica, hand in hand, and laughing intimately with Ryan at Vento. A series of other photos followed, documenting their entrances and exits from hotels together. A murmur went through the crowd. The smile on Jessica's face froze. "Personal entertainment," I said simply. "Next, a lesson in financial management, dedicated to my mother-in-law, Eleanor Vance." An audio file played. Eleanor's voice filled the room clear as day, boasting about how she'd lost my $20,000 bonus. Money lost can be made again. "What's important is the business lesson." Eleanor's face turned white. The murmurs in the room grew into open gossip. "Jessica, what in God's name is happening?" she hissed at her daughter. "And this gift is for my beloved wife," I continued, giving them no time to react. "A testament to the trust and love you've shown me." The second audio file played. This time, it was the conversation between Jessica and her mother, plotting the divorce to seize my assets after I signed the $1 million contract. "That soldier is just a stepping stone." The entire room fell silent, a silence more terrifying than any outcry. Jessica took a step back, her face ashen. "Jake, you set me up?" she stammered. "Set you up?" I raised an eyebrow. "I call it intelligence gathering, but the presentation isn't over. And the final gift," my voice turned cold and hard, "is for the law. For the military families who were deceived by the greed of a woman with no honor." The screen switched to documents, complaint forms, sworn statements, proof of wire transfers. The entire Army CID file on Jessica's fraud was displayed for all to see, undeniable and damning. That was the kill shot. Eleanor slumped into a chair, speechless. Jessica was like a cornered animal. She let out a wild, hysterical scream and pointed at me. "You bastard! You've ruined me!" She charged the stage, trying to attack me. But before she could get close, 2 large security guards men I had hired for the evening stepped out from the wings and restrained her. In the midst of the chaos, Peterson, my lawyer, who had been posing as a guest, calmly walked onto the stage. He took the microphone from my hand. "Ladies and gentlemen," his voice was formal and commanding, "my name is Peterson, counsel for Captain Jake Anderson. Based on all the evidence that has just been presented, I am officially announcing here tonight that my client will be filing for divorce from Mrs. Jessica Vance. Furthermore, the complete file on her criminal fraud will be delivered to the district attorney's office tomorrow morning." The performance was over. I didn't say another word. I walked off the stage, past the shocked and contemptuous faces of the crowd. I walked past Jessica, who was screaming and cursing in the grip of the security guards. I walked past Eleanor, who sat motionless like a broken statue. I walked out of the royal crest, leaving a ruined empire in a wake of utter humiliation. That night, for the first time in years, I felt truly free. The scandal at the royal crest sent shockwaves through the city's elite. The Vance family, from the pinnacle of high society, had plummeted into the abyss of disgrace overnight. But for me, the party was just the declaration of war. The real battle took place behind the doors of the courthouse. The divorce proceedings were swift. Peterson presented the evidence systematically and irrefutably. Jessica's lawyers tried to fight back, painting me as an abusive, pathologically jealous husband who had entrapped his wife. But their words meant nothing against the recordings, the photos, and the official documents. The court granted the divorce. Due to Jessica's egregious fault, I was awarded the majority of my own assets, including the house. She was ordered to repay every dollar she had siphoned. But that was just the civil court. The criminal case was the final nail in the coffin. With the file from the Army CID and the testimony from her victims, the district attorney's office wasted no time in indicting Jessica. Eleanor, for her role as an accomplice in concealing and benefiting from the fraud, was also charged. I didn't attend their sentencing. I didn't need to witness their final fall from grace. I just read the news. Jessica received a multi-year prison sentence. Eleanor got probation and a crippling fine, large enough to paralyze the financial empire she was so proud of. Ryan, the lover, had vanished without a trace the moment the scandal broke. It was all over. Justice, though delayed, had been served decisively. I had completed my final mission in that marriage. I had cleared the battlefield. After the dust settled, I requested a transfer to a different base in another state. I needed a fresh start, a place where the name Anderson wasn't connected to the Vance family. The Army approved. My new life was simple and quiet. I focused entirely on my work. The experience hadn't broken me. On the contrary, it had made me stronger and more decisive. I was promoted, earning genuine respect from my superiors and my men. Occasionally, I'd use my story with the identities changed, of course, to talk to the younger soldiers. I'd tell them about the importance of financial security, about recognizing toxic relationships, and above all, about the value of honor. And then I met Sarah. She was a history teacher at the on-base school, a woman with a warm smile and intelligent eyes. We first met at a military community event. We talked about books, about travel, about life. For the first time, I was speaking with someone without having to report or defend. She listened not with curiosity, but with empathy. She didn't care about my rank. She cared about me as a person. Our relationship grew naturally. There were no grand promises or fake performances, just sincerity, understanding, and respect. For the first time, I knew what it felt like to be with someone who truly valued me. One weekend afternoon, we went hiking together. When we reached the summit, looking down at the green valley below, Sarah turned to me. "You seem truly at peace, Jake," she said. I smiled and took her hand. It was warm in mine, because for the first time in a long time, I feel like I'm home. Home wasn't a luxurious mansion or a wealthy family. Home was peace. It was where your honor was respected. It was where you could just be yourself. The storm had passed. The battlefield was behind me. Ahead of me was a clear blue sky, and a woman who was smiling, ready to write a new, truly happy chapter of my life with me.